We are back. My next guest is a most imaginative and talented gentleman who created the famous puppets who will be featured in a TV special at 8 o'clock tomorrow night called The Muppet Show. Would you welcome, please, Jim Henson.
Jim Henson. You know him, you love him. One way or another, you almost certainly grew up with his work. Be it Sesame Street learning your ABCs, Fraggle Rock teaching you important life lessons, or the Muppets just showing you a good time. Even if you don't think you know his stuff, his influence has been major in shaping television and the art of puppetry for the future. His creation of the Muppets, which he coined the phrase to mean marionette puppets, would put his own distinct flair on everything he did across genres, audiences, and mediums. He believed and proved that his specific work could be universal, no matter who wanted to use it or how. Starting way back in 1954, this simple theater kid had been hired for the station WTOP-TV for a Saturday morning kids series called The Junior Morning Show. Apparently, the station went to his high school looking for puppeteers and happened to stumble across Henson for his first chance around the camera. Sadly, though, despite this being Henson's first big break, most of this show has been lost to time. Soon after that, his next big step was almost his own show, Sam and Friends. This series was monumental in developing his sketch comedy variety format. It has a lot more in common with The Muppet Show than his supposedly kiddie nature of his previous series. The series was surprisingly experimental and introspective, with all the characters being figments of the protagonist Sam's imagination. This was a huge series and lasted for a while between 1955 and 1961.
And now a word from our sponsor. Folks, tonight I'd like to talk about... Hold it! Stop the presses! Excuse me, Professor, but I'm in the middle of a commercial.
As we all know, commercials were a major part of television, and Henson became a pro at them throughout the 1960s. My personal favorites are his Wilkins coffee commercials.
With this camera, I shoot pictures of people who don't drink Wilkins coffee. I'm ready. Shoot. Anybody else?
There was a good strategy to working on these ads, and that was getting more and more people to see his characters. As much as Henson was selling the product, he was also selling the concept of the Muppets. This got him and his Muppets invited to many different shows as a guest. It was never an invitation of Henson and his puppets as crafts made of felt. It was inviting Henson and his co-stars. They were their own people, even when only acting in commercials. And with such colorful and fun characters, it was time for them to really make a name for themselves in children's entertainment. This was much to the chagrin of Henson, who didn't want to be pigeonholed into pure kids' entertainment. But he relented, and thank God he did, because he was about to really show his own in a little 1969 series called Sesame Street. Henson regularly worked in the puppet segments of the show, only really acting as Ernie and his iconic Kermit the Frog.
Bert, have you seen my wastepaper basket?
Ask me that again and look into my eyes.
As we see it today, his puppets are synonymous part of the show. It's hard to believe that at one point they weren't involved with every part of the set and instead segmented off. When anyone thinks about Sesame Street, they think about its colorful cast of puppets and the way they interact with the humans. But he wouldn't be content with this forever. His first escaped attempt from children's TV was to work with SNL on their first season, which had mixed reviews from the cast. None of the writers really understood what Henson was going for with them, and so he didn't stay with the team long. Then his idea was to go all out when it came to pitching his own, more adult show featuring the Muppets. His first attempt was with the Muppets Valentine Show in 1974, an original pilot with a variety format, but it didn't really get off the ground. His second, in 1975, was all out, making sure everybody knew that the Muppets could be really adult. How did he do this? The Muppet Show Sex and Violence. While it had a mixed reception for its bland humor, it gave a model of what this new series was going to need. More on-topic, current, and mature humor, but still keeping the zany charm found in the Sesame Street Muppets. As he polished his new pilot and shopped it around, no American network would take it, purely associating the Muppets with children's media. It would never work. So he had to go overseas to Britain to get his series on the air.
It's the Muppet Show with our very special guest star, Loretta Swit!
Finally, in 1976, The Muppet Show was born and became a household name. The Muppets operated like a true theater group, cycling through not only their own recurring bits of comedy, singing, dance, avant-garde performance, and backstage hijinks, but also getting famous guests on the show. Henson and his team reportedly treated their guests so well, so they'd tell everyone that they knew that they absolutely had to work on The Muppet Show. Led to many famous folks skyrocketing the popularity of the series. But more than that, he really solidified the main Muppet canon. He had been seeding these characters all throughout his works: Miss Piggy, Kermit the Frog, Rolf the Dog. This method of using and reusing puppets for different media, developing their personalities, gave them a strong joint front. Then, Henson took a little break from television after the end of the series in the late 70s and early 80s, where he both created and co-created so many films with his puppetry skills. It was a natural progression for them, be it in Hollywood movie glitz and glamour, Broadway comedies, high dark fantasy film that gave many kids nightmares, or a whimsical story about Goblin David Bowie. His puppets and those learned by him had already made their big splash, but now it was on his terms. He returned to the world of television with kids media, with more fantasy shows like 1987's Storyteller or Super Kitty TV like The Muppet Babies in 1984. But the most impactful television media he made in his later years was Fraggle Rock in 1983. His mission in making another kids series seems like it would go against everything he wanted to say about the Muppets not just being for kids. But the lessons he taught in Fraggle Rock were different. He wanted to teach emotional lessons, common sense, understanding. Fraggle Rock's impact was more about shaping kids to be kind ones. Even Henson himself believed it would be the show to end war. He just wanted peace and love to be promoted for kids everywhere, and if that lesson had to be taught by the cave-dwelling Fraggles, then so be it. So now, at the end of this journey, I look at everything he accomplished over the course of his life. The laughing and the crying and the catchy songs, the way his characters were imbued into our everyday lives as kids and adults, the way he proved that his way of doing things, his puppetry, his Muppets, endured across generations. To this day, Muppet media is still being created, and in the all-enduring tradition of Henson and his mission of creativity. Between Christmas classics and literary tales, returns to form or edgy comedies, even recently these Muppets have shown up everywhere. The Henson Company and the Muppets represent something bigger when it comes to Henson, what it means to be original and true to yourself. And he's what made me and many others want to pursue something that may be non-traditional, but full of heart. Which is why I think he should be inducted into the Television Hall of Fame.